Hi everybody, so I was going to put a generator on the magic button mechanism. Then it struck me that very often you want a generator by itself so you can add it to other projects. So I thought what I would do is I would do an adaptable generator that could be added easily to many different projects. And the style that I've chosen is an Axial Flux Serpentine Coil generator, and it's really only 4 parts, and these are the 4 parts. There's a coil former, a cap, and then 2 pieces that take the magnets. And the pieces that take the magnets are self-explanatory. You just glue in 18 magnets aside. The one that we perhaps skip over a bit too much is the coil. So let's have a better look at coil forming. So this is the coil former. Now there are 18 of these little lozenges and 18 straights in there, and the reason there are 18 is because on the magnet disc there are 18 magnets, and so we need 18 straight bits of coil for the magnets to pass over for it to generate as a serpentine coil. So the number of turns is equal to the number of magnets that you put in. And of course you've done the north-south, so they're always even. Now, the way to wind the coil is, first of all, we need to measure that distance. And I measure that distance pretty simply. I just put a bit of wire in there, wind it round. When it's wound round, pull it out, so I know what length it is, and measure that length with the ruler and add on 10%. And then I've got my length that I'm going to be using. Now, to wind a coil, what I very often use is this. This is a Serpentine Coil winding former made for me by a friend of mine called Peter, and he's Grendel 1960. And I'll put a link to the STL file for this if you want to print it off, because it does make Serpentine Coil winding super easy. But there is one thing, is that it will bend as you get a very big coil on here, so I put it on a block of wood, makes the whole process very much simpler. And we're going to wind 2000 turns, so I'll put this into the vise and we'll get winding. So everything's set up, my wire's on the turntable, and to start it you just put one onto the bench, there we go, a bit of tape to hold it, and then we can start turning, and we want 2000 turns. Off we go. Now Peter's former obviously slides in and out, so you can make these coils as big or as little as you like. The length of the coil is obviously that section round there. If you want a bigger coil, you slide it out and make a bigger coil. When I made the coil, you might have noticed I put that black tape around to make this, and that black tape means that the coil can't actually fall to pieces and we've got a nice coil. Those little bits of black tape fit nicely in there. So what we need to do is just do a little bit of preparation on this by folding it up like that, to make a star shape, because then it's super easy to get that coil into the coil former just by bending it around there and pushing it in. It'll go into the coil former, and once it's in there you can glue the cap on. Now I just glue the cap on with a bit of super glue, and that's it, finished. And I wound it with this wire. This is 0.1mm enamel copper wire, and I can get about 2000 turns, but that's the maximum of what will go into that space. You're probably better off aiming for 1000, 1500, something like that, so I went a little crazy. But that's it finished. Now you might have noticed there's a great big hole in the middle. That's because I want this to be adaptable. Now when it's like this, it can be used in one configuration, but another configuration is where you put the axle through the center. So I've also got a plug, and that plug goes in the center like that, and it takes 2 skater bearings, 22mm by 8mm. And that means that the magnets will spin on that axle. If it's like that, then I can fix that to something and have the two magnet rings either side and spin the magnets with something else, which is what I want to do later. But on this one, we're going to put that in the center there to create one piece. So the magnet rings are pretty self-explanatory. You put 18 magnets in north, south, north, south, and then we put a bar through one of those. It goes into that with an 8mm washer as a spacer. There we go, like that, and then we put the other one on the other side. Now if we give this a quick spin by hand, we'll get some kind of voltage reading out of it. So we got about 3 or 4 volts out of it, which is not bad for what this is. Now we can increase that voltage quite easily by putting the plates closer to the coil. We can't really do it in this handheld version because it would rub, but when it's fixed in a frame we can get those plates really quite close. You'll get more out of it if you make the magnets stronger, you'll get more out of it if you spin it faster. Now people keep telling me to put metal plates on here, they say that it improves it. To be honest, yeah, go for it if you want. I just like the idea of it being super easy to make without any real problem, which is what I tend to aim for, and as long as the performance is acceptable for that, I'm okay with it. But if you want to improve that, then stronger magnets, metal plates, etc, etc are ways to go, but this will work just fine out of the box, so to speak. And I made it like this so that it can be put into just about any kind of generator that you happen to be making, whether it's wind, water or hand or whatever it is you're going to do. Then this Serpentine Axial Flux generator is pretty cool. Now of course we're going to attach that to the button mechanism, but I wanted to isolate it so we could go in depth on how to make one of these. I hope it was useful. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.